Yeah, I tried to ask listeners, what do you want to know about global index funds?
I asked him. you didn't do squat.
I reposted it on my Instagram story to my 1,500 followers.
Yeah,
Clout.
Yeah,
there you go. That's why we got all the responses from me, mate.
I got 190,000, mate. Your rookie numbers.
It's not a pissing contest.
It was a second ago until I whipped out a bigger one.
Let's get started on these listed questions. They'll save me quickly. De torpedo. Oh, Pedazo de torpedo. That is it. Say that 5 times quickly. Pedazo de Torpedo wrote in, is it really low risk than just investing in US tech stocks, which make up the bulk of the global equities anyway, yet deliver far higher returns?
Yeah, so the conclusion of the video that I made was like, there's this like, if we take it from just away from stats and numbers and we just look at it from like a human perspective, this argument that we're reliant on tech and that we've become too reliant on tech is kind of, it ignores the fact that we've been reliant on tech since the day we first sliced some bread or smashed a rock against something, you know? And maybe this is just the most modern iteration. It kind of makes me, I mean, I just think it's maybe a bit silly to say we have tech businesses. I would argue that every business at its heart is a technology business in some way, shape or form. You know, technology gets the goods to them. They use technology to produce and manufacture. They use technology to facilitate sale. It's like we call Google and Apple tech businesses, but then we say that, I don't know, a manufacturing company isn't when they are, you know, they're using robots to make stuff. But I do think that if we accept this label of technology and we say that that's a specific set of businesses, by going all in on those businesses, it just seems like, why, you know, this is a brave bet.
Yeah.
It would have paid off in the last few decades, but it just seems like, why ignore all the other businesses? And when we go into things like recessionary markets or there's downturns, other businesses tend to do well. Dividend stocks and safer businesses.
Yeah, you said in the video, it's quite cyclical. So like there was like the energy boom and then now it's like the tech time and then before was like housing or property or something. So like do you think we're reaching the end of this tech cycle, or you think not technology cycle or this Google stuff, or do you think it'll keep going for a while?
I think what happens is a new technology emerges, replaces the old, and then we stop calling that thing technology and we call it like we call the new thing tech, in the sense of like the automotive industry was a technological revolution in the sense of it completely changed the world. And maybe one day we'll call Google like a boring thing that isn't tech. And it'll be like this AI kind of thing that's like, everyone's like, oh, holograms, I don't know.
These little robots walking around, give us massages while we're on the podcast.
Yeah, that's
That'd
nice.
Be right. Everyone wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, I bet you wouldn't. But, you know, what the question is actually asking is, why wouldn't I just go all in on the businesses that have delivered the returns recently? And what I would say is, maybe 40, 50 years ago, someone was saying, why wouldn't I just go all in on General Motors because they're producing all of the returns? Well, you would have missed out. I just think that people always ask the question of, well, if these guys are driving the returns, why don't I just buy those? But if you ask that question at different times throughout history, you will have seen that it would have, at some point, that would have run dry, that thesis or narrative.
That leads us nicely onto another question from Hengis Bluetooth 7882, who wrote in, any way of having a global fund that specifically excludes the tech sector, or at least the Magnificent Seven? The IT sector is massively overhyped at the moment, reminiscent of my days during the dot-com boom because of AI. For the listeners, you want to reel off what the Magnificent Seven are?
Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, Nvidia, Tesla. Do we say Meta?
Do you say Amazon?
We said Amazon. Do you say Meta?
I don't think you did.
Meta is in Facebook. You get the gist. Yeah, about those, the big tech businesses. But, you know, this whole thing of like it's overhyped, I don't know that it is. You know, I personally wouldn't exclude them from the mix because they just seem to keep finding new gears.
Yeah.
You know, like
you got to think about how whether like in your daily life, do you use these things? And like I use Google all the time.
This is a good point.
It's like it's ingrained in my day-to-day life.
And they make money. So like the comparison to the .com bubble is that it was overhyped, but people just had domain names like pets.com. There was not even a business there, or there was no revenue meaningful, and they weren't making any money, and people were just launching cash into them because it was like, this the future, bro. Whereas Alphabet and Nvidia and these companies have the revenues, they have cash flow, they generate profit that underpins their values. And whilst they might seem to be, overvalued or undervalued at certain points, whatever, I don't think it's a fair comparison to say that they're like the tech businesses of the past, of the .com bubble, where people would just, if you had a good domain, you could raise millions but not have a business.
SCFC _151 said, the S&P 500 has performed well for years and years, but for a 30-year investment, is a global fund safer?
I think safe is a weird word. Like, yeah, someone said in the comments recently, like, I thought it was quite well put, that a global index investment is still an American bet, but you're kind of hedging the downside or limiting the downside, because you're not completely exposed. So if America goes down and you're only in America, you're going to feel that down 100%. Whereas with a global exposure, you're still betting 65p in every pound on the American market. But if America tanks, you've got kind of like protection on the downside because you've got all these other countries in there. You're going to accept a lesser return when America is dominant, like it has been. I'm just pulling figures out of the air here, so don't quote me on these, but I think last year it was like over 20% for the American market, but the global market might have produced 15 to 16%. So that's a big difference. And that's painful to see that you've not got the full juice out the squeeze. But risky, you could say that not backing the winner is risky, like in the sense of coming second place or not producing the best returns. What I would say is that having this like view that America will always be dominant, that America will continue to do what it does forever, is, in my eyes, risky, or at least doesn't acknowledge the fact that that hasn't always been the case and that times change. So if I'm just buying America, I'm basically saying that I think American dominance will continue. I'm not that confident that that will be the case. If I just buy the UK, it's the same. If I buy individual stocks, I need to be valuing these businesses. All of this stuff is not things that I have time for in my life. What I think I'm good at is sitting here and yapping away. I'm world-class yapper.
Have a nice little chin wag.
Yeah, I'm a world-class yapper. So, I should focus on that and then park my money in a global index, because I believe the world will keep turning. I believe the world will keep delivering value. And I believe long-term that markets trend upwards. If you want to hear our full thoughts on whether we think global index funds have a problem, then the full episode is right here.